Hi there, today I'm going to take you through on how to make this Ace of Spades here. Process is pretty basic, just using some basic functions of Illustrator, nothing too hard. And yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to use a scanned image of an ace which I've just roughly drawn out on a piece of paper. I draw it out beforehand because it's generally a good way to get a nice shape and that sort of thing. You guys can start from blank, it doesn't really matter. But I prefer to draw out these sort of things on a piece of paper and then trace over the top of them. So to place it into our document, what we're going to do is we're going to come up to File, just simply come down to Place, and just choose our file. And it should just place it in the center of your document like so. So now we're going to lock this image in place so we don't accidentally select it and move it around. To do this, we're going to need our layers palette up. If we don't have our layers palette, just come up to the window menu option at the top here and just come down and tick the layers there. Alternatively, press F7. So once you've got your layers palette up, all we have to do is come over to this little drop down arrow here and select our placed image, in this case which is the Ace Scan PSD, and just place a padlock in this little square here, and that makes it so we can't select it or move it or anything at all. Alright, so now we're just going to use our pen tool and trace over one half of this drawing that I've done here. So to do this, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because it's a bit small for me. And we're just going to come up and grab our pen tool here, or you can just press P on the keyboard. And we're just going to make sure that we have no fill selected in the fill box here. To do that, if you have got a white or something in there, you can just press this little button here and that'll get rid of the fill in there. Alright, so I'm going to start from the bottom here, roughly in the center. We'll just go over a bit, and we'll just click once there. And then holding shift, I'm going to come over here and click there. Now holding shift's going to constrain that to a horizontal line so we don't get any uneven lines going on. And we'll just come up to our first curve here and we'll click and hold, and we'll just drag that pointer out, that handle out like so. Now from here what we're going to do is we're going to click on this point with our pen tool, and you'll notice that little kind of sideways upside down V type of thing comes up. What this is going to do is it's going to kill the handle on this side so that this curve doesn't do that. So we'll just click on there like so, and we'll come around to roughly about here, and we'll just click and drag that out like so. Actually I'll come down here like so. There we go, that's better. At any time you can press Ctrl Z and you'll just go back to that previous point which you're on. And we'll just repeat that around here. Click and hold and just drag that up. And we'll come right up to the top. Click and hold and we'll just drag it so we get that nice little bit there, like so. Alright. And again, we're just going to click on that point and we're going to close the shape by coming all the way down to the bottom and doing it like so. Now I draw these in halves so I can get a perfectly symmetrical ace. Obviously if you go around you're going to get this wonky, uneven looking thing. I do this out of personal preference because I like things nice and even. You can do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But from here I'm just going to adjust those points a little bit, so I'm just going to grab my white pointer tool and we're just going to click on the handles that we want to adjust. I might actually drag that out a little bit and pull this handle in like so. Beautiful thing about working with vectors is you can just easily fix up things like this after you've gone and traced it. Alright, so now I'm happy with that. I'll grab my pointer tool. You can press V on the keyboard if you want that rather than clicking it inside there. And I'm going to select this line here and I'm going to press this little arrow here. And what's that going to do is going to swap the stroke color over to the full color. And as you can see, it's gone folded in like that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this shape here and flip it across and put it on this side and then merge the two together. Now to do this we're going to first want to set our point of alignment for this shape. We can do this using this little thing up here in our little alignment shortcut area. Understand though that CS5 doesn't have this anymore, so what we'll do is we'll just come over into our transform palette inside here. You can also find this under the window menu. And we'll just come over and click it on the side here. Now moving that little black box over to the side means that everything that we do for alignment will alignment to that side rather than the center, which it was set to by default. So this allows us to copy the shape by pressing Ctrl C, and then pasting it in place by pressing Ctrl F, and then coming over to this little drop down menu here in our transform palette, hitting flip horizontal, and what they'll do is we'll just flip it over based on that point which we set in there. Cool. So now you're going to notice that our center line wasn't exactly straight. Isn't a big deal. All we have to do here is just zoom in a little bit, and just using our white pointer tool by pressing A, we'll just click on that point at the bottom, and holding shift we'll drag that point over like so. There we go, and we can just cover up that gap like that. Alright, so now to merge the two together, we're just going to select our pointer tool by pressing V on the keyboard, just selecting both the halves there, and coming over to our Pathfinder dialog box and just hitting the first shape mode and then expand, and now merge the two together like so. Alright, so now we're going to want to decorate our ace, but before we start I'm going to throw down a guide just along the center of this ace so we can so it just makes things easier to arrange from one side to the other. So to do this, I'm just going to zoom in to the top of the ace here, just to a very center point, and using our white pointer tool by pressing A on the keyboard, click and select that point right at the top. Now to do this, doing this, we're going to get our X and Y value points of where that point is. So to get the center of the ace, we're just going to copy the X value there. Now if you don't have these values here, you can also find them in your transform palette. Now, after copying that value there by pressing Ctrl C, and then bring up our rulers by pressing Ctrl R, and then we're just going to drag out a guide. Just place it anywhere for now. Now to position this guide exactly in the center of this point here, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make it so we can move the guide around by pressing Ctrl, Alt, and then semicolon. And that way that will allow us to select our guide of our pointer tool, and then we can come up and then go and paste that value into the X position there, and hit enter, and now position our guide directly in the center of our ace like so. Once we've done that, we'll press Ctrl Alt semicolon again. We'll just deselect the guide first and then press Ctrl Alt semicolon, and now make it so we can't move that guide anymore. Alright, so now I'm just going to select the ace here, and I'm just going to come over to our transparency dialog box. Again, if you don't have this, just find it in the window drop down at the top, and then with the ace selected, I'm just going to drop the transparency down to around about 50%, just so I can see the my little scan drawing in the background there. Alright, so now I'm going to draw in these little circles around the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over to the side here, and I actually deselect our ace first, and then I'm just going to set the colors to default and then turn off the stroke. By default we should have white, and then we're just simply going to select the ellipse tool and come over to side, come up to the top, and I think we'll just place a circle directly in the center of that guide there like so. Holding Alt and Shift will constrain the proportions and then draw it from the center, and again holding Alt and Shift we'll just keep drawing circles. I'm just going to get progressively bigger as I go, and we just do this all the way around. Don't be too fussy at this point. We can just adjust things after we get all our circles down. Alright, so with all your circles drawn, we can just select our pointer tool by pressing V on the keyboard, and we can just adjust them and position them like so. This process is kind of time consuming, but I find the manual processes of doing this sort of thing generally produce the better results. Alright, with our circles done, we're going to try and draw in this line here with our pointer tool. So we can do this just by pressing P on the keyboard. Now bring up our pointer tool, and just making sure our fill's set to white. We'll just come up to here and we'll just start drawing it from here. I always find drawing curves like this not the easiest thing to do, so don't worry if you fail dramatically the first time of doing this. It takes me a few tries usually to get this right, and even still I have to adjust the curve quite significantly after I've drawn it. As you can see, I'm already off to a great start. Also, if you're not happy with the points there, you can always just grab your white pointer tool and just adjust them accordingly like that, and then go back to using your pen tool, and we can just do that sort of thing like that. really best just to do this in small increments rather than large ones, I find. There we go, it doesn't look too bad. I'm just going to go through and adjust this until it's perfect. Well, perfect enough, I guess. Alright, so now we've got this shape here done, we can just continue on and start filling in the other shapes. Now this one's going to be a lot easier because there's going to be a hell of a lot less points to deal with. We can actually probably do this in a couple of points. There we go, just like so. Just drag that anchor way out there, and I'll produce us that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a point into the center there. If you press plus, it's going to bring up your add a point path tool. That's pretty much just the pen tool with a plus on it. And you just click on the path, and then using your white pointer tool, you can just drag that in like so and adjust it like that. Alright, so our next step is to select all these decorations we've got here and flip them over to the other side. But before we do that, I might actually lock this ace here so we can't move it by accident. This is probably something we should have done earlier on, but it doesn't really matter, it's too late now. So we'll just come over to our layers palette, and with that ace selected we'll just come down in a little square we put next to it so we can find where it is, and we'll just hit the padlock in there. So now we can't select that ace, which makes things easier to when you want to do this next step. So now we're just going to select all the white stuff, and we're going to group it by pressing ctrl G. So that's now all one selectable object. And we're just going to simply press ctrl C, ctrl F, and then we'll come up to our transform dialog box and go flip horizontal. Now you notice that's not going to flip it perfectly like it did last time. Obviously these things are going to be, it's going to align it right to the edge of those shapes. That's alright, we'll just do it manually this time. So we'll just zoom right into the top circle and we'll select that one, and then pressing ctrl Y we'll just drag that over so it's roughly over the top of that circle like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it'll look better if it is. There you go. So now everything's perfectly lined up and our ace is pretty much on the way to be finished. Alright, so this is looking pretty good. Now I'm just going to quickly draw in the bottom shapes for this bit here. I'm not going to bother with this shape up here, it's suddenly become redundant with all the other shapes kind of overcrowding that area. So we're just going to use the pen tool to quickly draw in this bottom shape here. Now for this one I might actually activate smart guides by pressing ctrl U. Most people probably already have the smart guides already activated, but that's just going to make things easier to snap to one another. And just grabbing my pen tool here, I'm just going to click roughly about there in the center of that guide, and it's going to draw the line right down to the bottom here. And again, holding shift, I'm just going to draw it. Actually, before we do that, I'll kill that anchor point there by clicking on it, and then holding shift we can come back to the center there, and then come up to the top and close that shape like so. Alright, so that shape there like that, we can just go ahead and select it and then go ctrl C, ctrl F, and again flip it horizontally, then click both shapes, go back to the Pathfinder and merge the two together like that. So voila, that's looking pretty good. I'll just turn the smart guides off by pressing ctrl U again so they don't get in the way. And now we'll come down and we'll unlock our ace there and just select that and bring the transparency back up to 100%, and then just turn off the visibility of our skin. Voila! So our final step, we're just going to paste in a little skull that I've drawn, and then we'll be away. Alright, so before we do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to select everything by pressing Ctrl A, and then we'll just press Ctrl G to group it all together. Now I've opened my little skull on another document, so we can switch to that by pressing Ctrl Tab, and then I can just select that and go Ctrl C and then Ctrl Tab again, and then Ctrl V to paste. Now you're going to notice that they don't line up, so we're just going to select both of them and just making sure that our transform point is in the center there, not on the side like we set before. We can just go back to our line and then hit our align to centers there. That should align everything up in the middle. I might just drop him down a little bit and just increase his size like so. Here we go. Alright, we're just going to press Ctrl Center Column to get rid of the guide and we're all done. Alright, so if you found this tutorial helpful, please feel free to hit the like button, that always helps. Also subscribe, I do plan on making a lot more of these, and yeah, have a nice day.